Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone. I'm Khairul and Mrs. Firni will present the SFL presentation about cohesion and discourse. Let's see the table of contents here. The first, the concept of text. Second, lexicogrammatical cohesion. Third, conjunction. Fourth, reference. Fifth, ellipsis and substitution. Sixth, lexical cohesion. Seventh, the creation of texture. The first presentation will be delivered by me. And second, Mrs. Gary will continue. Okay, let's move to the first slide. Here, the concept of text, logogenetic patterns. Text something that happened in the form of talking, writing, listening, or reading. The organization of text is semantic rather than formal. The organization of text has typically been represented in terms of some form of structural notation. But it is important to be able to think of the text dynamically as an ongoing process of meaning. And the next, here for the example, this is an example involving all three meta functions in the domain of the clause. Text 9 verse below show the beginning of a casual dinner table conversation among family and friends. Kate has just served a fish dish that she's prepared, and Craig turns this into a topic of conversation by making an appreciative comment. Here's the example. Craig, Kate, I must say, this fish is cooked beautifully. Mother, it's lovely, darling. Kate, thanks. Thank you, Craig, so much for saying so. Jane's not happy, man, cold, and blah, blah, blah. And we move to the next slide for the analysis. Table 9 first, clause analysis of text 9 first. Here you can see speaker, name, mood, transitivity in this table. For example, speaker, Craig, name, Kate, I must say, mood, unmarked, subject, name, interpersonal name, transitivity, declarative and modal, moded, and vocative and positive. Within the textual meta function, unmarked theme selections emerge as the dominant textual motif. The first few selections give its thematic prominence with positive assessment of it as news. Then Jane is introduced as another topical theme. Alternating first with fish and then with two successive names in imperative clause. For example, well John crab before being sustained in a series of three clauses. Okay, we move to the next slide. Here in the table, 9 seconds is about the text score for the beginning of a dinner table conversation. The result, minor, theme, unmarked theme, there is 3. Major, mood, marked theme, there are 16. The example in table 9 seconds above illustrates how meaning is created in the course of the unfolding of text. It is helpful to have a term for this general phenomenon. That is, the creation of meaning in the course of the unfolding of text. We shall call it logogenesis, with logos in its original sense of discourse. Next slide. Table 9 third, logogenetic pattern for high-ranking units here consists of meta function, unit, system, logogenetic pattern. The meta function consists of logical, unit, clause, system, textus, and logico-semantic type. The next meta function textual, unit, clause, system, theme. Then info unit, information, interpersonal, clause, mood, experiential, clause, sensitivity. The next section is the lexicogrammatical resources of cohesion. Cohesion is a set of lexicogrammatical systems that have evolved specifically as a resource for making it possible to transcend the boundaries of the clause, that is, the domain of the highest ranking grammatical unit. There are four ways by which cohesion: first, conjunction; second, reference; third, ellipsis; and fourth, lexical organization. Here in the table 9.4 here, we can see here in the table speaker, conjunction, reference, ellipse, and lexical conjunction. Craig, speaker here, says, Kate, I must say this fish is cooked beautifully. Reference. This fish beautifully. And this is the explanation. You can see here. Conjunction include both conjunction proper and continuity in the opening of our dinner table conversation. There are markers that indicate that clause in new turn relates to previous one. For example, mine's cold and well chained thing of smoked salmon. Grab the pen. Oh no, I'll grab the pen. You can see here. And it's conjunction. Yeah. Oh no is also the conjunction. The second reference, while conjunction including continuity, link whole clauses. Reference create cohesion by creating link between elements. Since our dinner table conversation has an immediate material setting set by the interaction. For example, this fish ate the pen ate. It is this reference with the text that create cohesion of the referential kind. The third, substitution and ellipsis. Reference create cohesion by creating link between element of meaning reference, but there is also resource operating at the level of wording. Example, Kate, I must say this fish is cooked beautifully. Thank you. Here the substituted item so stand for the hypothetically projected clause that this fish is cooked beautifully. This wording is prominent to the expression of gratitude. Okay, let's move to the next slide. The fourth is lexical cohesion. The distinction between grammatical cohesion and lexical cohesion is a matter of degree. Lexical cohesion is sporadic cohesion that is established through the structure of the or vocabulary enhanced, like substitution at the lexicogrammatical level. You can see here in the table 9.5 types of cohesion. There are general type, grammatical zone, lexical zone. In general type, there are consists of transition between message, status of element, in meaning, in wording. Grammatical zone or location, grammatical unit was of conjunction, reference, ellipsis, and substitution. Lexical zone consists of lexical cohesion. The next is conjunction. A word which join words, phrase, or clause together, such as but, and, when, so that, nevertheless, or that, unless, etc. The cohesive system of conjunction has evolved as a complementary resource for creating and interpreting text. For example, furthermore, consequently, therefore, etc. Here, the table of conjunction, you can see here. There are many types of conjunction. There are elaboration, extension, enhancement, and there are of subtype, opposition, clarification, addition, variation, spatio-temporal, and etc. Here the example for item was opposition. In other words, that is, I mean to put it another way. There is also positive and negative in addition, in conjunction. Positive, the example is and, also moreover in addition. Negative, nor. And there are many examples of conjunction here. We can move to the next slide. Okay, the next slide will be delivered by Mrs. Sugiarni. Mrs. Sukiani, time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Mr. This time it's to me to present about the next material. It is about reference. Here, the reference, there are 4 points. The first is the nature, the types, and the second personal reference, the third demonstrative reference, the fourth comparative reference. Next, what is the reference? Reference is the use of word or phrase to refer or to point to word, phrases, or other grammatical units. A textual state in the reference system in an identifiable state is a particular element identifiable by listener or not. If it can be identified, the listener must recover its identified. If it cannot be identified, the listener must define it as an element of new meaning in the interpretation of the text. For the example, here, the reference item, Velvet Bunny, is presented as a group that can be identified by the personal pronoun she and the possessive determiner of his. Next. Okay, the types of reference. There are 2 kinds of reference. Before this slide, Mr. The type of reference. Okay. The first is exoporic reference and the second endoporic reference. Here, the example, Kate, I must say. I hear is reference of exoponic. And this face is called beautifully. This face also reference exoponic. And endoponic reference is situational. The reference is outside the text. Okay, next. The personal reference. In personal reference, the category of person is used to refer the first personal pronoun and the second possessive determinant. Personal pronoun, if determinative, they are personal pronoun that function as object in the nominal group. For the example, Velvet Bunny as he. Possessive determinant, if possessive, they are determiners that function as deictic in the nominal group and are combined with either her or premodifier. Example, as in Velvet Bunny, as her coat. Next. Here, demonstrative reference. Okay, the third is demonstrative reference. Here, the specific and the non-specific. The specific, near, remote, in the nominal pronoun, the example is this and this. And adverb, here and there. The basic sense of this and that is one of proximity. This refers to something as being near. That refers to something as being not near. That terms tend to be more inclusive. Next. Okay, this is a comparative reference. The expression such as here and the example here. Okay, the expression such as the left, the same, another, similar, different, and the right, the expression related adverb, likewise, differently, equally. Okay, next. Here, the example, I will explain it. For the first until the last sentence, she begins by presenting the struggle. as though we all know what the means, and then refers to it as the same. Later, C presents what white people already had as the best, and identifies what they still wanted as better. She doesn't need to say what is the better, because words like a better and best are recurses for comparative reference, like a same, other, and else. Next. Ellipse and substitution. Ellipse mark the textual status of continuous information within a certain grammatical structure. Ellipses thus assign differential prominence to the elements of a structure. If they are non-prominent, they are ellipsed. If they are prominent, they are present. There are three main contexts of ellipsis and substitution. The first is clause, second the verbal crop, and the last is the nominal crop. Okay, next is lexical cohesion. Here, the primary types of lexical relation derive from either the paradigmatic or the systematic organization of lexis. The first, the paradigmatic relation, can be interpreted in the terms of elaboration and extension. Two of the subtypes of expansion that are already familiar from the logico-semantic relation used in forming clause complexes. There are repetition, synonyme, hyponym, memorynym. And the systematic relation hold between lexical item in a syntax that tends to occur together or collocate with one another. For the example, collocation. Okay. For the example is in the under or in the below of the table. Olgi met a bear. Bears are bulgy. Here, Algae, where bears means all bears. There would still be lexical cohesion of bears with bear. In this case, however, there would be only one tie, whereas in the example, sit first, there are two, one referential and one lexical. Next. After lexical cohesion, the last one is the creation of texture. In the table here, the features combine to form the textual source of English lexicography. The first, structure, and the second, cohesive. The structure, there are 2 points. The first, thematic structure, theme and rhyme. And information structure and focus are given and new. In the cohesive, there are conjunction, reference, ellipsis. There are example in under table. For the first sentence, it is the example of instances of conjunction. And the second sentence, the example of the punctuation traits. As separate sentence, so under the assumption that the sentence is the graphological realization of clause complex. The third sentence, here the example of the extending rather indicates a relation of antithesis. And the last one, sentence, is the example of the relation of motivation. I think that's all our presentation about that chapter 9. Thank you very much, and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.